And what would you think some of the most common words that we get to describe from nurses the profession of nursing? Just throw out some words. What do you think? Caring. Number one. Caring. Now, I like caring. I do. But caring's not my favorite word. Doesn't matter what I think, because we're surveying what nurses think. But what I really want to see nurses begin to talk more about is scholars and researchers and evidence-based practitioners, nurse practitioners, scientists, problem solvers, evidence seekers. Do you see what I mean? I mean, I love caring. Caring's in there. But, you know, we'll see. It's interesting. I'm too early on in the results to come to any conclusions. But caring was number one. And then, so what we're going to do, we have this whole list of about 30 adjectives that have been used to describe nursing. And then we're going to compare it to the public's perceptions and see how they compare. That should be pretty interesting, don't you think? Do you think that the public perceives us the way we perceive ourselves? We don't know yet, but we're thinking not. But it's going to be interesting. So we're doing this comparison. However, I've been invited to present the findings at a podium presentation in Colorado in February or March next year. Oh, it's going to be cold. And we'll have all of our results in by then. We don't have them yet, so when I submitted the abstract, it was a preliminary one because we don't have all the results in yet. But the conference I'm presenting in is called, it's a marketing conference, healthcare marketing. So if I go in and start using a lot of nursing jargon, it's not going to fly, is it? Because it's not a nursing conference. So that's what I mean by this. If you're attending a conference that's not where people are not going to understand the jargon, then you need to change the wording that you're using. So, the setting. You want your poster to be as close to eye level as possible. You want to also consider, are you responsible for bringing a tripod stand or some kind of things, you know, to affix it to a board? This is the most common thing, that there's usually boards that are up that you just attach it to. But it depends on the conference. So there again, you have to look at the sponsor's guidelines very carefully to see what you need to do. The size of the poster, is it going to be, is there a place for you to affix it? Should it be mounted? You want to consider that there will be noise. You know, it says consider, you know, will there be noise? There will be noise. Because usually it's a happy hour kind of thing too. It's a reception and people are usually walking around and they're, you know, sipping on their wine and eating their cheese and that sort of thing, and it's very noisy. And it's usually very casual, even at the very professional settings, it's very loud. So keep that in mind. We've already talked about being visually dynamic, and I can't emphasize that dynamic piece enough, because in order to engage the audience into this poster that you've created, you need to be inviting. And if you're standing at your poster and you're standing like this, who's going to want to come and look at your poster? You know, you want to just like loosen up, have on your name badge, be dressed very professionally, smile, enjoy it, because you've worked hard to get there and you have an important message to deliver. So act like what you're saying matters, because it does. And I promise you, you will have people visit your poster. By the way, I'm going to come to your poster presentations, and I'm looking very forward to it. Pixelation is not our friend. Pixelation is what happens when you take maybe a picture such as this one, and it's not high resolution, and you try to blow it up. And when you do, all you see are what? Squares. That's pixelation. And I have seen many students in tears over a pixelated poster that they just got back and they don't have time to get it reprinted, and they're stuck with it. So you want to make sure that you use high resolution images, otherwise you will have pixelation. And so you might ask, well, how do I know if I do? Well, a nice way to find out is that if you blow it up, what does it look like? But you know, if you try to put it on, if you try to put it on your poster and you start to increase it and it starts to look fuzzy, then when you put it on this size, if it looks a little fuzzy on a little PowerPoint, it's going to look tremendously fuzzy when it gets on this. So it's always a good idea that when you have finished your poster is to put it up on a screen just like this, so that it's more consistent with a full size, and then you'll see what it looks like. Always consider copyright too. If you are using an image that belongs to someone, then you need to give credit, and depending on the image you may need to ask for permission to use it. There is a misperception that just because you got it from Google means that you can use it, and that's not true. If it's open source and it's marked clearly that you can use it, then okay, but you would most likely would still want to source it just the same. State the source where it came from. We've already talked about the rule of third. This would be thirds here. This one is also done in thirds. And then, let's see here on the other side. Here's one. I'm going to pass this around too. This one's done in fourths. These are 4 different posters that are just condensed for the purpose of sharing with you. You would never present something like this, okay? These are just examples. So I'm just going to pass that around and let you take a look while I'm talking. Okay, you want always to have unity and balance. So this does pretty good with that. It starts to get a little not quite heavy enough here, but overall she does have balance. So it shouldn't be too heavy on one side or the other. Most often times people will put the really key information right in the center of the poster because that's where your eyes gravitate to. Okay, if you are traveling with your poster, then you should consider, because you're going to be rolling it up, right? You can get it laminated. And there's actually lamination on one side or both sides. So depending on how durable you need the poster to be, you might want to laminate it on both sides. I highly, highly recommend that because the lamination helps protect it from tearing, and accidents happen. What I'm passing around with this is actual poster board. It's got a spongy kind of filling in between 2 pieces of cardstock, and that is much more expensive than this. And this is called coroplast. It's more like a plastic kind of, it's what yard signs use, if you know what I'm talking about. It's that kind of substance, but it's much less expensive than poster boards. So when you're getting your posters printed, that's a question to ask wherever you're having it printed. Can you print on coroplast? Because it's going to be probably 40%, maybe 50% less. Okay, you want the lettering to be very simple. You don't want a bunch of squiggly lines and fancy graphics with your text. It needs to be clear, easy to follow, always keeping in mind that 2-minute rule that you've got people there looking at your poster. So it needs to be just a straightforward, simple font. Try not to use capital letters. Now it's okay, some places recommend that you do it for the title, but in general in the text you should not have capital letters. Why is that? Yeah, it's like being yelled at, and it's the same with a poster. You don't want to use, and you also don't want to use, I don't know if I said this, you want to use the same font throughout. Sometimes people like to get so creative that they have, all these different kinds of fonts for the headings than they do for the text, than they do for the title. Don't do that. Simple. Simple. You don't want people trying to, figure out what font you used. You want them to pay attention to the message. Sometimes you will see posters will actually include some graphics like arrows that move your eyes through it, depending on if you're including a model. So this conceptual model, this theoretical framework, kind of has that sort of arrow feel to it, and that's not uncommon to see. If you're ever in doubt that folks know which way you want them to go on your poster, you can use arrows and lines. Contrast is always good with the poster. If you're using a light background, you want to use a darker font, and vice versa. Consider white space. So what you don't want is a poster that's just so full of words that it's so congested that it's hard to read. So some white space is good. And white space I'm referring to is the space in between your sections. I think we've already really covered all. Oh, margins are important. So you want the margin to be essentially the same all the way around. Balance, always balance. So color is very important. So consider that when you're working with your poster, that bright colors tend to attract people to your poster, and colors such as red and yellow are exciting and energizing, and whereas yellow is more of a calming, subduing kind of color. And anytime you would use that, of course, you would want to have the opposite with your font, so that if you're very bold with a color like red, then you're going to need something that's very calm for your font, like probably white or maybe black, depending on how red it is. But blues and greens are also calming, whereas purple is, you think more of rank and authority. White, as you can see, was used here, and I'm using white as a background for my presentation. Why do you think I chose white for my background of my presentation? It does, doesn't it? You're not competing with color. It's just easy to see because I'm giving you a lot of information, and I'm wanting you to focus on the message, not on my pretty slides. So I don't have distractors on here and lots of pretty pictures and things, because I want you to focus on the message. Oh, and you want to be careful with blacks and grays, because they can be very effective, but they can also be kind of a downer and a little bit depressing. And so there's, on the example that's going around, there's one that's got lots of gray. And that's okay, but you just have to be aware of that and use it sparingly. So final steps after you've got your poster finished is to solicit critiques. Before you send it to be printed, let somebody else look at it and give you their input. Let them tell you what they think about it and what makes sense to them and what is the message that they're walking away from. Have them ask questions about things they don't understand, because you might want to go back and add a couple of bullet points to maybe clarify something. That the best time to fix it is before it goes to the printer, because it's not inexpensive to get these things printed. And as you're preparing for your presentation, you want to have a handout. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I've seen it trend more this way now, that people tend to provide, usually in color, pictures of their actual poster on one side with references on the other. And of course, always your name, your contact information. At the very least, your organization, affiliation, and your name, so that if they want to contact you. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to poster receptions and picked up these papers and it didn't have anyone's name on it. Be sure to identify yourself on any material that you hand out. It should be clearly marked with your name and your affiliation. The other way that you could do it is if you wanted to include just your abstract on one side with the references on the other. That's acceptable too. Spell check that poster. And then when you're finished, spell check it again. Because it's just awful to get it back and find a misspelled word. So make sure that you have done that before it goes to be printed. So when you're getting ready to go for your presentation, the big event has arrived, you want to have those copies of your abstract and your business cards. You know, business cards aren't that expensive anymore. You can get them printed just about anywhere. But at the very least, if you don't want to spend the money to do that, have it on paper, and just have some way that people can contact you. Or even better, like I mentioned, put it on that handout that you're giving to them. Attractors, that means things like candy. So those things really do attract people to come to look at your poster. So candy or anything that's kind of fun sitting on your table next to your poster, that's appropriate, of course. This is an important thing, materials to repair damage. So if you have posted your poster up on a wall and it got torn in transit, you want to be sure that you've got, tape, and you've got extra pins to secure your poster, and so that you are prepared. And the materials to store your poster, which is the carrying case, what I was referring to before. So your responsibilities as a presenter is to know the evidence, which you do because you did the project. And I can promise you that it is so unlikely that anyone in that room knows more about that topic than you do. I see so often people will feel intimidated or nervous about presenting, and you just need to tell yourself that because it's true. No one in that room knows more about this topic than you do. So what you should do is engage them into a dialogue. Answer questions boldly and confidently. Feel good about what you've done. Celebrate that you have been invited to attend and present as a scholar on a topic. Be the utmost of professional. Dress highly professionally, speak professionally, have on your name badge, and enjoy it. Have fun. Celebrate not only that you are a nurse, but that you are contributing to the foundation of evidence-based practice, which is nursing knowledge. And that's our responsibility as professional nurses, is that we are, like Sarah McLaughlin, right? That we have a message that we have created ourselves through our evidence-based projects and research projects, and that we're disseminating that and getting it out there. And who knows, it might just come back to you. Somebody might decide to replicate your study. To me, I just can't wait for the day when someone calls me, like I called Dr. Yoon and asked her if she would be on my dissertation committee and if I could use her instrument. And she was wonderful, and she said, she's just delightful. And she said, oh, I would love it. I just get so excited when people contact me and they like my work. And I said, I love your work. And she said, please do use my instrument, and I have given your instructor a pre-formatted, do they have this already?
It's down in the, yes, they should have it on Blackboard.
Right now it's set up as thirds, but you can change it to be fourths, or you don't have to do it this way because you can add new sections, new headers, and all that sort of thing. But this will get you started because it's formatted to print like this. So you don't have to change, depending on what your instructor's guidelines are. I don't want to tell you what you don't have to do. You need to follow those instructions. But it's formatted to be this size. Okay? So you have that at your disposal. And I did want to show you one other example of a poster. Now that you know what you're looking for, so tell me what you think about this poster. And first of all, I'm going to say I'm not picking on anybody. I go back and look at my posters. You grow. Every time you do one of these things, you grow. And I have asked permission for everyone that has agreed to let me share as a learning experience. So this is not being critical. This is critiquing so that we learn from this. And truly, every single time I do a poster, I feel like I get better than the time before. So what do you see here?
It's like my ADD kicking.
Because what?
It's too many words.
Too many words, okay?
I don't want to read it.
You don't even want, Would you be drawn to go look at this? No. I mean, gosh, you don't even know where to start. What else do you think about it?
It's dull.
It's dull. The colors
Colors are too bright.
colors don't engage you, do they? They don't pull you in. What else?
Boring.
Boxes around all those sections. Like lines can draw you, but I feel box stays with the.
Okay, good. So the boxes you feel deter from the message. Why do you think she chose to use boxes, or he? Yeah, that's why. See, that's what happens. If you use too many words, then you feel like you got to do that, because otherwise it's just a sea of words. So if you're drawn to do that, then that probably means you're using too many words, okay? Anything else about this one? It's missing a couple things that we talked about as the,
And the person's name.
yes,
Affiliation.
affiliate. Yes, you know what? I didn't say that, and I meant to. You, underneath your title, you want to have your name, your credentials, and your affiliation. And then at the bottom of the poster, or somewhere on it, but usually at the bottom, you should put the name of the conference you're attending and the date. Okay, but okay, so it's missing that, but what else? There's source. There's no references on there, are there? There's not a single citation in there. No purpose, thank you. That's huge. Because remember, when people visit your poster, that's what they're going to be looking at very first. Your title and your purpose. There is no purpose. You'd have to read all of this background and try to figure out. Can you tell by looking at this what the purpose is? You can. There's another thing that's missing. What else?
Abstract.
Well, the abstract wouldn't necessarily go here. It would be on a handout, but yeah, we would need to have an abstract available to hand out. Well, we said we want to have the background, the purpose, the background, what is it? Well, the PICO question is going to help formulate. You don't have, you can put a PICO question on there though. You can use that. Or you can use that to help formulate your purpose statement, okay? But what we've got the results, but we don't have a discussion of the results. So when you have your results, you need to explain in just bullet points. Let's see, where's her discussion? Does she have one? Oh, here we go, right here. So you want to have a discussion so that if somebody's looking at these graphs, what does that mean? So bullet points, what does it mean succinctly? What does it mean? And finally, it's missing significance, relevance to nursing. What are we supposed to do with this? What are we supposed to walk away with? So I'm sorry I blathered on, I went a little bit over. So thank you for your attention. You've just been absolutely delightful. And I have to tell you, I'm already excited about coming to see your posters. I was invited last semester by your instructor, and I had just the best time. And the students were so excited to share their projects